This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Each week, this show is dedicated to providing you with retirement planning solutions. We're so glad you're joining us today. Tom, my friend, you know how excited I am to have this particular conversation with you. How are you today?
I am doing well, and I tell you, I am too. This has been I don't know if you'd call it a passion, but it's definitely been a focus of my business for the last 7 or 8 years, and that is focusing on the retirement needs of women. And we thought right here, right before Mother's Day, it would be a great time to focus on that and really drill down on some of the unique aspects of financial planning for women. And Kristen, you and I have both been involved in this specific field for quite some time.
We have. And you know, it's so funny, Tom, we were talking before today's show. You and I have had this conversation a lot together off the air, but we've never brought our listeners into our world and what kind of tied us together long before you and I ever met in person. So I too am so passionate specifically, about financial education for all people, but specifically women. And part of that comes out of my story and my background. So we thought we would share a little bit about that with you today. And then, of course, we're going to dive into the unique retirement needs that women face, because like it or not, women do need to engage in more financial planning than men. But my story goes back to how I grew up. I grew up in a home where my father managed the finances. And even though he included my mom in the conversations, I sort of internalized that was the man's role. Right? That was the man's job, was to handle all the money. I think a lot of women can relate to that. And then fast forward, I graduated from college with a business degree, started working in the real world and didn't understand any of this stuff because nobody had taught it to me. I had a basic knowledge of budgeting and whatnot, but I had no clue how investing worked, the stock market, 401ks, any of that kind of stuff. And I remember hitting the age of 25 and I was still single. Everybody else in my life had gotten married at the age of 22, it felt like. And so here I was navigating life on my own.
You were an old maid at 25, right?
I felt like it at the time. Yeah. Looking back, that makes me laugh, but that's kind of how it felt. And I wanted to start getting a handle on some of these things. And so I was talking with one of my girlfriends and she said, "Oh, I have this friend who's married to a guy who's a financial advisor. You should meet with him." And so I went and met with him. And Tom, what's interesting, looking back, I know that he's not a bad guy. But knowing what I know now, he worked for a corporate big box firm and he was not a fiduciary, meaning he didn't have the licenses. That means that he was able to serve my best interests. He could only offer me whatever his company told him to offer.
Proprietary products, inside products where they make money off the sale, but they also make money off the products.
Right, which is how a lot of the industry is set up, but I didn't know that at the time, right?
That's right.
And so we're in this meeting and he asked me all sorts of questions that I did not know the answers to. And by the way, I had just been broken up with the man who I thought I was going to marry, which fast forward, we did get married almost a decade later. That's another conversation, but I'm heartbroken. Yeah. And he's like, "Well, when do you think you're going to get married?" And I'm like, "I have no clue," right? All this kind of stuff. And I left that night, and I can tell you exactly where I was driving when I just broke down in tears. And more than anything, I was just mad because I felt stupid. I felt humiliated. And I remember the question I kept asking myself was, how is it that I graduated from a great school with a business degree and I'm out in the real world and I don't understand any of this stuff? And I don't like feeling patronized. I don't like feeling stupid, but it was just so frustrating. And I remember I consoled myself that night by saying, well, it's okay, Kristen, because someday Prince Charming's going to come along on a white horse and he's going to handle all the money and you're not going to have to worry about this anymore. Like, that's literally how I tried to comfort myself as I was driving home that night. Well, fast forward, I had no idea it would be 9 years before I would get married. And when my version of Prince Charming did show up in the form of a public school teacher in a beat up Chevy truck, it turned out that he had come from a family where his mother had managed the finances and he had spent his entire single life saying, oh, I can't wait till I get married so I can just hand this stuff off to my wife and she's going to handle it. So
Right.
we had some things to figure out, but right around that time was when I first got into this industry. And unbeknownst to me, I got connected with a man named David Bach, who is a award-winning best-selling author several times over. You even know how many titles he holds, right, Tom?
13 times he's been a #1 New York Times bestseller. He's a mutual friend
Yes.
of ours.
He is. And so what's interesting is I had the privilege of working with David right out of the gate when I got into this industry. He was working with a financial firm and really promoting his book, Smart Women Finish Rich. And I got to be one of the presenters that traveled nationwide presenting that content on his behalf. And it was so encouraging and really redeeming for me to get to be part of the solution to something that had brought me so much frustration and pain in my earlier years prior to having that knowledge. So that was 2014, 2015. I spent that year traveling nationwide, presenting that content. Well, then you met David, what, in 2016, correct?
Right. In 2016, David became a part of a group out of Topeka, Kansas, and I got to know Dave. I had read his books. Some of you might remember his book, The Automatic Millionaire. He teaches you how to automate things in that book. Some of you might remember a more recent book called The Latte Factor. Those are all #1 bestsellers. And the book that Dave was rewriting in 2018 and 2019, he selected me, and get a load of this, Kristen, I was the only guy. He selected 4 lady advisors across the country to help him roll that out. So, like you, I was able then in 2018, 2019, up until COVID in 2020, I was able to have women's seminars and workshops and teach a Smart Women Finish Rich program for 1 hour. And oh my goodness, so many delightful ladies came into our business at that time and became a part, because I think it's not unusual, some of the words you use, Kristen, in telling your story. And there's some of you out there who are saying, man, I'm just like Kristen. If you listen to Kristen tell that story, she said she was intimidated. She felt like crying. She felt stupid. I cannot believe how many ladies have come in. And I think it has a lot to do with what our society has almost typecast a lot of times ladies to just let the husband take care of the finances, let the man take care of the finances. But Kristen, you were single. You
I
didn't
was.
have anybody.
I did not. No.
A ton of our clients are all single, and they don't have a man to take care of the client. So if there's no man coming along, Prince Charming, and if he is that school teacher driving the beat up truck, you know what, and you've got to take care of it on your own. And so what I did coming through 18 and 19, 2018, 2019, having 4 daughters and a wife that I love dearly, I really began to focus at that time, and still do, on the particular needs of women in retirement and planning for retirement. It is so traumatic, and it's an under taught subject. It's an under-addressed subject because most of the time when I have so many couples even come in and talk to us and they say, well, what are you looking for in a financial advisor? And if the wife will speak up, many times she will say, I'm just looking for an advisor that will also talk to me because the previous advisor only talks to the husband. And that's a shame, Kristen, because what happens? The one who's left when there's only one party in that marriage, there's only one spouse left, is usually the wife. There's an 80% chance that the wife is going to die single, that ladies are going to die single. There's an 80% chance that men are going to die married. Now, you try those statistics on. That's why what Kristen is saying, what Kristen learned, what Tom is saying on this show, what Tom has learned through the years, when we say that retirement planning for women is more important to do than it is for men to do, that's exactly why we say what we say.
And we are going to be explaining why that is throughout today's show, because the reality is women face several unique challenges in retirement. We're going to get into why that is, what are they, and most importantly, how can women be empowered to retire successfully and securely? And I think, the reason a lot of advisors shy away from this subject, Tom, I've met with a lot of male advisors and they're like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation because I don't want to come across as this, that, or the other, or I don't want to seem this, or really are the needs that different? Well, guess what? They are different, and this is why we need to talk about it. And so whether you yourself are a woman or you have a woman in your life who you love, you definitely want to listen up throughout today's show. And I think that's one of the things that immediately bonded us, not only because we had the connection of 𝗪𝗲𝗂𝗧 in common, Tom, but because I saw your heart and I saw your desire to really educate all people, but your special passion and your care for women, because that is unique. And I love that you hold that dearly and you create a safe space for women to just come and be. You meet them where they are, and then you help put them potentially in a much better financial situation. So this is an exciting thing to talk about.
Hey, let's wrap up this section by let me say this. 𝗪𝗏𝗂𝗏, B-A-C-H, the book is Smart Women Finish Rich. I would recommend you get it. It's a great read. It'll tell you tons of stuff, more than what we're going to discuss on this show today. Secondly, some of you during this break coming up, you may want to text a friend and or call a lady who's a friend of yours and say, hey, get on the radio and listen to this channel so that you can learn something, because in the next 45 minutes, we're going to really delve into the special needs of ladies and get real specific. We told the overall story. We're going to get real specific in the next part of the show.
And really, the story just begins here. If you want to have your story written and make sure that you're empowered to retire securely, we encourage you to reach out and connect with the team of Moseley Wealth Management. And you can do so by calling 888-930-5609. And what the team would love to do for you is build you your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. It's free. We'll talk more about what that process looks like throughout today's show. But if you want to get a jump start and get on the schedule, we encourage you to call 888-930-5609. We'll be back with more in this important conversation regarding the unique retirement needs that women face right after this.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Moseley of Moseley Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. When it comes to taxes and retirement planning, it can feel like you're playing a game without knowing the rules. Tax laws are complex and they're constantly changing, so how can you be sure you're making the right decisions to minimize your tax burden and maximize your retirement savings? At Moseley Wealth Management, we can help you understand the tax implications of your retirement plan and work towards developing a strategy that works for you. Our experienced advisors stay up to date on the latest tax laws and can help you navigate the complexities of the tax code. We'll work with you to identify tax-efficient strategies that can potentially help you keep more of your hard-earned money in retirement. From Roth conversions to charitable giving, we can help you make informed decisions and implement strategies that aim to help minimize your taxes and protect your wealth. Don't let taxes catch you off guard in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management to see how we can help you develop a tax-efficient retirement plan that is tailored to your unique situation. Work with a team of experts who know the rules of the game and can help you work towards playing to win. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint and tax efficiency analysis. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We're so excited to have you with us today as Tom and I talk about something we're both very passionate about. We are discussing the unique retirement needs that women face because we want to empower more women to retire securely. So whether you yourself are a woman or you have a woman in your life who you love, you definitely want to listen to today's conversation. And that's what we're going to kick off this segment with is why is it that women face unique challenges in retirement? What are those unique challenges and what makes our retirement needs different from those of men? So Tom, my friend, take it away.
Well, women, many times, I mean, if you take a lady if you're out there and you're 55, you're 60, you're 65, you're living in an environment right now and a world that treats women differently than it did when you were in your 20s and 25 and 30-year ages, okay? Because it's a lot more open. It's still not what it should be. Women still earn about 82 cents for every dollar that men earn. Can you believe that? Even in our society, and it used to be even worse than that.
And I've lived it, and it's not fun. When there's a gender pay gap, it's awful. Yep.
Well, one of the things we do on our leadership team when we're hiring someone and we get down to the salary, and yes, I'm the business owner, I make the final decisions, but guess who always asks a question? And here's the question that I ask. If this lady was a man, would we pay her this same amount? Because so many times it's just inherently built into our society. Hey, you can pay the women less. Boy, that really irks me, being the father of 4 adult women and as my daughters, and being married to a wife who works as hard as any man out there in our business and what she does. Listen, women, you deserve equal pay for equal work. I definitely believe that. And so, but you don't get it now, realistically, and you haven't gotten it through your earning years. So it automatically puts you behind the 8 ball.
It leads to less saved over your lifetime, right?
It does. It absolutely does. Now, add that to the fact that if you're 55, 60, 65, you probably had more time spent outside the workforce when you were younger. What was that for? It was caregiving. You said caregiving. Yeah, it was caregiving to your children. Or, when they were born, many times 30, 40, 50 years ago, you stayed at home and you raised those children until they went to school. And then you went back to work in the workforce. If anybody ever says, well, you didn't work for 11 years, listen, you have my permission to gently slap them in the face, okay? Because if you stay home and you take care of 2, 3, or 4 children from the time they're born until they get into the workforce, you're working, lady. You're working very diligently, harder than the man that goes out and brings home the money. You're working a lot harder than they are because you're staying home taking care of those children. And I believe and I value what you're doing even more.
Yes, it's so hard, and it's the hardest job and the most rewarding job for a lot of folks, right? But it's work.
Kristen, have you seen some of those reports that talk about the real dollar value of a mom and what she does in raising those children and caregiving? And it's not just the babies, but many times it's the woman who has to stay home and do the caregiving for the parents, the
Yes.
grandparents
Yep.
and the elderly and those who are aging and those who are sick. So what does that do to your financial situation? Well, it cuts into your Social Security. It cuts
Mhm.
into your retirement ability to save in a 401k because you've made money for fewer years. And it just chops in so many ways. And then let's add something on the other end of life. You come along and your retirement, ladies, is probably going to be, as best we can average everything in all the surveys, is going to be about 5 to 6 years longer than most men. So
Mhm.
here you are, less savings, less Social Security, having worked fewer years and put away money. But good news is you got less money. The bad news is you're going to live longer. So,
Right.
so you've got to live longer, and that in itself brings along one more thing or two more things. It brings along probably the need for longer taking care of yourself from a healthcare standpoint at those upper ages, and
Mhm.
also possibly the need for long-term care, because if you're alone, you don't have a spouse to take care of you. If you're single already, you don't have a spouse to take care of you. So you're going to run into this whether you're married and you find yourself single at some point in the future, or for all of those single ladies who are out there going through life and you're on the yo-yo plan. You're on your own out there. You understand what I'm saying. You're behind the eight ball. You've done a miraculous job, but you usually haven't positioned yourself because of all these factors as well for retirement. So that's the issue. That's where you
Yes.
are in many cases.
As you were talking, Tom, I was reminded of how David always talked about this. David Bach, he would say, it's the good news and the not so good news. The good news is we're living longer than we ever have before. And on average, we are living 5 to 6 years longer than men. The not so good news, that means our money has to last as long as we do. And for all the different reasons we just stated, this is why it is such a challenge specifically for women. I would love for you to share what are some of the misconceptions that you find women often have about their financial futures, or mistakes that they're making when planning for retirement that they're not even aware that they're making.
Well, I think one thing is a lot of times, and this is true if you're listening out there, many times you're male or female, a lot of people turn the age of 50 and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to
I gotta think
retire.
about this.
Yes, I
Right.
got to think about this. And it just seems like that, ladies, if you're out there on your own, or even if you're there and the couple, you're working as a couple right now, you're married right now, and you don't have much saved, there's more a sense of hopelessness. There's nothing I can do
Mm,
about this. There's
mhm.
nothing, I can't pull myself up by my own bootstraps and just get after it. There's more of that sense of hopelessness. And I'm here to tell you that whether you're single now, or in the future you're worried about being a widow, or you're worried about, even a big thing right now is gray divorce, and people finding themselves when they're 58, 60, 62, 65, all of a sudden you've been married for 38 years and now you're divorced. And
Mhm.
unlike the country music song where she got the gold mine, I got the shaft, many times it's he got the gold mine and you got the shaft. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of things there, and there's just a sense of I don't have any hope. There's
Mhm.
nothing that I can do. But I can assure you, if you're working with a lot of people, maybe they come across as a financial advisor. I mean, let me say this the right way. To most financial advisors that are out there, if you're 50 years old and you haven't saved anything for retirement, you're of no value to them. Okay.
Mhm.
I want to say that the right way, because you don't have any money that they can work with. And you got a few years to work less. So there's very little hope of you ever amounting any money. I take that as a challenge. And we've
Mhm.
seen that happen. We'll give you some illustrations a little bit later. We've seen that happen so many times. That's a challenge. How can I help these people who don't have a chance right now get a chance, get hope, and get back on their feet? but you still got to go through some things. A lot of times people, you not only have hopelessness, but you're saying, wow, look at the inflation we had recently. What if we have
Mhm.
inflation again? And I'm going to live longer as a lady. And you think it's too late. You think, there's no reason for me to reach out for help because nobody's going to really want to help me. And maybe you've come through some situations in life and you've got a lack of trust. You just don't trust anybody, especially when it comes to serious things. So there's a lot of things boiled up into that question emotionally where you've just, and I want to say this the right way, you do have to just get over it and realize that if you don't take care of yourself, there's no Prince Charming going to usually come to the rescue. You don't need to try to start looking to marry a wallet. You can take care of yourself. And I just want to encourage you, there's always hope as long as you don't lose your hope.
Yes. And a couple things that I remember I would always talk about with David too is that on average, women do make better investors than men for several reasons. And one of those reasons is we are willing to ask for directions, right? Now I'm being kind of facetious here,
Right.
but as a general rule, we are really good as women of reaching out and getting the help that we need and saying, hey, can you help me understand this? I think the hard part is that a lot of times women don't know who to trust, and our industry is full of people that unfortunately sometimes are not the most trustworthy. So that's why when you find an advisor, when you find a team like the team of Moseley Wealth Management, who you know has a legal and ethical obligation to always serve your best interests, who not only have the knowledge, but who have the care and the compassion to meet you where you are, and they will build you that plan. All you have to do is ask for it. They're going to give you the directions. And then we as women are really great at sticking to a plan and executing it. So that's where it becomes a win-win situation, right?
Far, far better than men. I remember a couple came to me one time and he said, well, she's not very risky and I'm like a riverboat gambler and I've made a lot of money in my life. She's always had a steady salary. Then we got down to how much they had, and she had over $800,000 and he had $40,000. Okay. The riverboat
Wow.
gambler who'd made a lot of money. Hey, I don't care what you've made or where you are. There's hope for you, but the biggest thing you've got to do is if you're drowning, and somebody throws you a lifeline like we're trying to throw you by building you a retirement blueprint, you got to reach out and grab the lifeline. That's all we ask you to do. And Kristen's going to tell you how to do that.
And again, this is for no cost, no charge, no obligation. It's simply an invitation to have a conversation to see how Tom and the team of Moseley Wealth Management can help and serve you. That number to call to schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be diving into some specific strategies to help address women's retirement needs. Stay with us.
Can you remember how different life was when you were 10 years old and 20 years old and 30 years old? You could be retired for 30 years or more as well. Imagine the different stages you will experience in a long retirement. One of the biggest concerns for most retirees is running out of money in retirement. If you've never planned for decades worth of income spending from your investments, savings, Social Security, and other resources, you don't want to get it wrong. Actively plan for a successful retirement by working together with a financial advisor whose practice designs these retirement income strategies every day in their firm. Tom Moseley of Moseley Wealth Management devises retirement income strategies for listeners just like you, and it's complimentary to get started. Call Tom Moseley of Moseley Wealth Management and ask for your own complimentary retirement income strategy. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Moseley. He is the founder and president of Moseley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We are so glad you're joining us today. Tom and I are really enjoying the conversation we are having with all of you about the unique retirement needs that women face. If you're just tuning in and joining us, we've talked a lot about the specific challenges that women face from a financial planning standpoint and why, like it or not, women do need to engage in more financial planning than men. So now we want to talk about some of those strategies that can specifically address these specific needs. One of the things I think we should just start off and just address, Tom, If we have a woman who's listening right now who's just feeling overwhelmed by all of this, who knows that she needs to have a plan and is going, I don't even know where to start. What's the first step? How would you answer that question?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you feel like that kid that you tell them to go clean up the toy room, and there's
Mm,
toys strewn all over the place, and they don't know where to start. And so
mhm.
you just have to sometimes have a guide or a parent or somebody who's watching say, take that toy and put it over there, take that toy and put it over there. Let's talk about what you do. First of all, in anything in life, you have to get a real clear picture of where you are.
Mhm.
And in starting a financial plan, you have to get a real clear picture of where you are currently in your finances. And that starts by breaking down how much money are you bringing in every week or month or however often you get paid. That's the very first thing. How much am I bringing in?
Mhm.
And then, secondly, you have to really lay it out. How much am I spending? And many times we run into a problem there because people sometimes just are not bringing in enough money for what they're spending. So, there's two ways to adjust that. You adjust up your income by maybe taking a little overtime or a part-time job somewhere, or you adjust down your expenses. But unfortunately, we're not the federal government, so we can't just forever operate as a deficit. It'd be nice if all of us could run up, well, I don't know if it'd be nice or not, could run up a $36 trillion deficit,
Just
but
keep printing more money.
yeah, but
Yeah.
the debts can really
Mhm.
kill you. So just one step, in every single folder that we pass out at all of our events that we just talked about, in every single folder, we give you two budget worksheets. And I know people look at budget as a four-letter word, but really it's a spending plan. It's a starting point. And we feel like it's really important for you, number one, to get at least a vision. You might not do anything about it. The scriptures even talk about, Kristen, a person who looks in a mirror and sees themselves and goes away and doesn't do anything about it. That's on you. But
Mhm.
it's on us to help you start cleaning up that toy room, cleaning up your life by saying, hey, what are you spending and what are you bringing in? And it can all be found on that budget sheet. And that budget sheet is available on our website, or you can call in and just say, hey, send me a budget sheet. Or you can go to the website and ask for a budget sheet. Now, you can also treat this radio show like a piece of exercise equipment. And
Mm.
by that, I mean that piece of equipment you got at Christmas and it never made you lose a single pound because you put it in your garage and you never got on it. Okay. You never
Mhm.
used it. Well, I can tell you about a budget sheet, but you have to reach out and grab one and use one for that to begin to help you. But it all starts with getting a clear picture of your income, expenses, and debt. And that budget worksheet can do that.
And so, again, to access that, you can call 888-930-5609, or you can visit the website, which is mosleywealthmanagement.com, MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. Well, Tom, what are some specific retirement saving strategies that women in particular should focus on?
Well, if you're working at a place that has a 401k or a 403b, you need to probably start taking advantage of that 401k. We'd have to look at your income and expenses. You don't want to go in debt to put money in a 401k, but most people can begin to start, especially if your company matches. People come to me sometimes, Kristen, and they say, my company matches 2% for the first 2% that I put in. Should I do that? Well,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, you put in $2 and you have 4. That's a good deal, okay?
Mhm.
In case
Don't leave free money on the
don't
table,
leave.
right?
And you can do that up to, if you're under 50 years of age in 2025, you can do that up to $23,500. You say, I can't come close to that. Start. Do something. And if you're over 50, you can do an extra $7,500 for a total of $31,000. And let me give you one more. If you're really getting close to retirement in 2025 and you're 60, 61, 62, 63, you can put, in addition to the base 23,500, you can put another $11,250 to make that a total of $34,750 that you can put into a 401k and start saving money.
Yes, those are, I just want to highlight, those are the super catch-up contributions that were just enacted at the beginning of 2025. So that is a new thing that a lot of folks aren't aware of yet. That number to call to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. We know this might feel overwhelming. We know that a lot of this might be new to you. The good news is it's not new to Tom and the team of 𝗪cie Wealth Management. They've helped thousands of people throughout Tom's 30-year career, and they would love to be able to help and serve you as well. 888-930-5609 is that number to call. When we come back, what about Social Security planning, and how can you as a woman protect yourself for the statistics that show that 80% of women die single? Stay with us to hear what Tom has to say about both of those pieces right after this.
More Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this. Get your own no-cost retirement plan review at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Stock market losses have you worried? Claim your free portfolio risk report and protection review from Tom Mosley of 𝗪cie Wealth Management. 888-930-5609. If the recent market volatility has you worried about your retirement investments, you're not alone. Right now is the time to take action to protect your investments. Surely markets do not always rise, but if you are in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, you don't have the same time to make up for portfolio losses as you did in your 30s and 40s. Claim your free portfolio risk report from Tom Mosley of 𝗪cie Wealth Management. 888-930-5609. Your portfolio risk report will provide action steps of what you could do to protect your wealth from current market swings. Get your free portfolio risk report right now. Call financial advisor Tom Mosley of 𝗪cie Wealth Management. 888-930-5609.
Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Today, Tom and I have been having a very important conversation around the unique retirement planning needs that women face. And as I teased before the break, we need to talk about some specific areas of financial planning that are different for women. One of those is Social Security. And so we already talked about the fact that most women have spent time outside of the labor force due to caregiving, which not only can impact their retirement savings, but can also impact their Social Security. So how do you go about specifically helping women maximize and, most importantly, optimize their Social Security benefits?
Well, I've said often on this show, one of the dumbest things you can say, and I will use the word dumb carefully and sweetly here, I hope. But one of the dumbest things you can say is, what I don't know can't hurt me, because it definitely can hurt you. When it comes to Social Security, you got to be knowledgeable about it. And there's no, let me go to this class and be knowledgeable about Social Security unless you come to one of our events, because that's where we fill it in. And we'll go even deeper if you come in and let us do the Social Security analysis and look at your actual numbers. But you need to know about your Social Security. Here's what I mean. We talked about a work gap. And that means a working outside the home gap, because you're working in the home raising the children, but you're not earning an income. So number one, have you paid in 40 quarters? You say, well, I haven't worked very much in my entire life. Make sure on your Social Security report, how do you get that? You go to www.ssa, that stands for Social Security Administration, www.ssa.gov, G-O-V. It's a government website. Go on there, set up your account, and see how many quarters you've paid in. Have you paid in at least 10 years? Okay, that's the first little hurdle. The next big hurdle is 35 years. Have you paid in and earned an income for 35 years? Because here's how they determine what kind of payout you're going to get. They're going to take your top 35 earning years. How do you find that out? On your Social Security website, on your account, once you get it set up and open it up, there is a tab you can click that will show you how many years you've paid in. 35 years is the magic number, because if you've worked 33 years, what they're going to do is they're going to give you 2 zeros and then average the other 33 years. If you worked 25 years, they're going to give you 10 zeros. If you've worked 36 years, they're going to eliminate the lowest earning year that you have. So working longer, if you've had a gap, could erase and eliminate some of those zeros. So it could really, really help you. What you know can help you. I'll say it that way. So some of you then, once you have your data, you may want to consider delaying claiming social. You may want to consider working. I had a lady recently take our class in Irvine, and she decided that she was going to work 2 more years because she had 2 zeros, and she significantly is going to increase her Social Security payouts because of those 2 extra years. And that really could be a very good strategy if you have recently been widowed and you're trying to maybe take your deceased spouse's social as a survivor benefit, allow yours to continue to grow, and then turn on yours at a later date. It could help you and impact you if you have recently been divorced and were married at least 10 years. There are all kinds of options. You say, wait a minute, Tom, I'm getting hit with a lot of things here. That's what we mean. We're not trying to fabricate that this thing is a complicated decision. It is. And sometimes when you go down to Social Security, in fact, they're told, don't give advice, just give out information.
Yes.
They can't do what we do, Kristen. They can't lay out your options and say, here's something you're eligible for. Here's something that you might want to work 2 more years and get. Here's something that because you were married 10 years before you got a divorce, you could play off of even your ex-spouse's Social Security. Ladies, you got to listen to me. When it comes to retirement, if you are or you find yourself behind the 8 ball with what you've been able to save because of whatever the circumstances we talked about earlier in this show, you need to get every penny you can, and you don't need to leave it to chance or just leave it, well, I'll just take a chance and turn it on. You don't need to hope strategy. Hope you're doing it the right way. You need some guidance.
Absolutely. And again, the only way you can get that kind of personalized, individualized advice is by meeting with someone like the team of Moseley Wealth Management. Again, that number to call to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary retirement blueprint is 888-930-5609. And as part of that, you are going to receive a complimentary Social Security optimization report. Now, Tom, this feeds into the next thing I want to talk about with you, which is we already mentioned on the show that research shows that 80% of women will die single. This means that we as women need to be ever vigilant and protect ourselves financially if we are to outlive our spouse. Or we also know that a lot of women may never get married or are single or have been through a divorce. There's something that's known as the widow's penalty. And there's a couple different layers to this. So I'd like for you to explain what we mean when we are using that term, the widow's penalty, specifically as it relates to a woman's Social Security, as well as to her taxes.
Well, what you don't know can kill you, okay? Can hurt you, can damage you. And the widow's penalty is this. If you are married and you lose your spouse, not only do you lose your spouse, but in that year that they pass away, you can still file married filing jointly at the end of the year and with those higher tax brackets. But the year after that, you're going to become, in almost every case, you're going to become a single tax filer. That means, let me just give you some numbers, at around $50,000 of income, you start getting into the 22% tax bracket. Whereas as a married couple, at $100,000 of income, you get into the 22% tax bracket. So you're single, And whoops, you inherited your spouse's IRA. So instead of $500,000, you are at $1 million in an IRA, and along comes the age of 73, and you have to start taking required minimum distributions. That has a much stronger likelihood, the widow's penalty, of pushing you into higher and higher tax brackets as you're forced to take more money out of your IRA accounts. And you're single now, you don't have that higher tax bracket, you have to pay more tax. We call it a penalty because you're now find yourself single. It's really important. Here's another thing, Kristen. You lose the lower of your social. Now, if you're sitting out there and you're single, I always am thinking about you. I might be talking to the married folks, but hey, you're in that lower tax bracket already, that tax bracket where it goes higher at a faster dollar amount. You're already at 22% at 50,000. You could help me persuade some of these married people to understand the penalty that they're going to get, because you get the penalty already being single. As a single person, you're on your own with social, but as a married couple, many times you have two. But when one of the spouses goes away, you lose the lower Social Security. My question to you is, how are you going to replace it? You say, well, I'll only need half the money. Tell that to your mortgage people, that your mortgage goes to half price. No, it doesn't. Tell it to your car auto loan people. It goes to half price. No, it doesn't. Tell that to the gas pump, that you get everything for half price. No, it doesn't. You still have to pay generally about 85, 90, 95% as much to live alone as you did to live as a couple. How are you going to replace that lower Social Security going away? First of all, you need to make sure that that breadwinner, the one that's higher, grows as much as it can. But many people find the idea of maybe using a life insurance policy or a fixed indexed income annuity to replace that lower Social Security. You move $150,000 or $200,000 over there, and that's for the surviving spouse to survive with the same kind of income that they had when they lose the lower Social Security. Before I jump off and we start closing the show, I also have to mention one other thing.
Okay.
Make sure your beneficiary designations are correct.
Yes, preach.
I have seen so many people that you got a divorce at some point and you remarried, and you remarried everything to the new spouse, except you forgot to change your beneficiaries on your 401k and your pension and all of those other things. And guess what? If you pass away and your ex-spouse is still on your 401k or your pension as the designated beneficiary, he or she gets your pension or your 401k. That's gone all the way to the Supreme Court multiple times. Hey, do you think you could use an advisor, a coach, to help you through some of these? Absolutely. If you're a married couple, if you're a single lady, if you're a single guy, but if you are recently and you've just found yourself, now you're single because you've been widowed or you've been divorced, you really need some help. We stand here ready to give it to you. You need to pick up the phone and call. If you call and the lines are busy, we found a lot of people are calling right at the end of the show because they don't want to miss any of the show. They'll call you back or keep calling. The people are there even after hours to take your call and to get on our schedule.
And that number for you to call is 888-930-5609. Getting your complimentary retirement blueprint costs you nothing. Not taking action is what could cost you in your financial life. We don't want you to succumb to the number one cause of financial failure, which is procrastination. So we encourage you to reach out. You're not alone. The team of Mosley Wealth Management is here to help and serve you. 888-930-5609 is the number to call. Hey, thanks so much for joining us this weekend. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
For your own no-cost retirement blueprint, call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.